Investigating Directorate Against Corruption head Advocate Andrea Johnson has struggled to explain if senior IDAC investigator Colonel Brian Padayachee had a referral affidavit when he arrested Crime Intelligence head Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo in June of last year. Khumalo and 6 other high-ranking Crime Intelligence members were arrested in connection with allegations of fraud and corruption. Padayachee told the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry during his testimony last week that several of his investigations were carried out without referral affidavits, legally known as Section 27 affidavits. Johnson is appearing at the Commission amid intense scrutiny of IDAC following testimony from previous witnesses who alleged that under her leadership, the Directorate selectively pursued certain investigations while others were overlooked. Her much-anticipated testimony, which is on its second day, is led by evidence leader Advocate Andrea Johnson.
When you responded to me about whether Colonel Padayachee had ever had sight of or received the Section 27 referral affidavit, my distinct impression was that you said, yes, he did. But when immediately thereafter Commissioner Baloyi engaged you, my sense was then that you were saying the opposite. I'm not sure as I sit here what your final position is on that. I just want us to put that to bed. Did he or did he not receive that Section 27 referral affidavit?
Chair, as I undertook that I would get clarity from the team, he did have sight of the Section 27.
He was given, in the sense of being given.
He had sight of it. That's the answer I have.
You see, you may have sight, you know, in the same way as, for example, police officers will flash their ID cards just like that. Or you may have sight in the sense that you are given the document, you read it, you internalize its contents. So was he given that document for him to personally read and internalize its contents?
So initially he would have had sight of it, and later in the year, when he had all the dockets.
No, explain having sight. That's what I'm interested in. What do you mean by that?
That when the team met, they engaged the 27, and he is part of that team.
No. That doesn't answer me. What do you mean when you say he had sight of it? Surely you understand the essence.
He saw the document.
Seeing as in, here's a document, it's lifted, and he does see it if it's lifted like this. But if it's immediately put back on the table, it's as good as not having been seen by him. So what do you mean by he did have sight of it?
So I'm giving you I'm giving you an explanation I get because I'm not inside of that group.
That's far you have not explained. That's why I want, what do you mean when you say he had sight of it? You have not explained it.
He saw the document.
I want to understand seeing. Is it in the sense of it being flashed? Here's a Section 27 referral affidavit, boom, it's gone back to the top of the table and he doesn't see anything. Is that what you mean by seeing? Or do you mean it was given to him for him to peruse it for himself?
He was given the document to peruse for himself, according to him and to the team, much later on.
That's all I wanted.
Later on.
Sorry, much later.
Right, let's give you a sense on the latest developments at the Madlanga Commission. We take you live to SABC News anchor Thembekile Mkhototo in Pretoria, of course, giving us a sense of some of the developments there. Very good afternoon to you, Thembekile. As we listened to the line of questioning and the Commission's tone towards IDAC head Advocate Andrea Johnson, I mean, it's noticeably hardened today as she was repeatedly challenged over whether the lead investigator in the General Dumisani Khumalo case had ever seen the affidavit that formed the foundation of the investigation. Talk to us about some of the highlights coming out.
Paul, good afternoon to you. So it's lunchtime here at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and Advocate Andrea Johnson, the head of the investigating Directorate Against Corruption, will no doubt want to use the next hour to maybe compose herself, because to say it's been a rough start to the day for her here at the Commission would be perhaps the understatement of the year, because she has still been struggling from 9:30 this morning all the way to 1 o'clock to explain the processes followed by her office in terms of dealing with a complaint that had come from the MP, Member of Parliament, Fadil Adams. So when the Police Ministry initially sent a letter to her office regarding the complaint, to when ultimately an investigation was launched, and Fadil Adams then filed this affidavit that became tricky to explain in terms of whether IDAC had solicited a complaint from a civilian regarding a criminal matter. So where we landed today was basically a bit of a law lecture, if you will, given by the Commission's chairperson, Justice Madlanga, on what is an objective or a subjective test in making some of the legal decisions in this issue. Let's bring in SABC News senior reporter Canny Maphanga, who's with me here at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College. Canny, as I was saying, a rough start to the day for Andrea Johnson, and it looks like it's only going to get tougher. But let's step back and talk about what Fadil Adams had complained about to the police ministry during the Senzo Mchunu period, what the ministry said to IDAC, and what IDAC then did based on that complaint.
Indeed, that's exactly what raises the questions that gets us to whether or not the Section 27 requirements were actually met, which is what you see Advocate Andrea Johnson struggling with right now. So effectively, it's now clear that the referral was that of the ministers. So it came from Minister Mkhunu's office. It was not that of Fadil Adams, as we've always heard from IDAC, or how they've tried to advance towards the Commission that this was a complaint by Fadil Adams. Even worse, what he flagged to the minister about the interception of the dockets that had nothing to do with this case that it has become, which is fraud and corruption, or the manipulation of appointment processes, or the abuse of the Secret Service accounts, all of these allegations, by the way. But the Commission is trying to test as to how IDAC even got to such a conclusion, or from this letter that spoke about the interception or alleged interception of dockets, and how that triggered them to go straight to Fadil Adams when that letter alone didn't meet the Section 27 requirements as stated in the NPA Act. So essentially what we're seeing here is IDAC struggling to reconcile the fact that the Section 27 requirements aren't met, but they went full speed with an investigation that now became something completely different, and they're defending themselves in the realm of these allegations that exist in the background, that this case was allegedly part of a fight back. So it's going to be quite a difficult afternoon for Advocate Johnson when she returns, because at the very least we see that as she is continued to be tested on this particular complaint, not only by the minister, but then tested further on the actual affidavit that they actually got from Fadil Adams, which we already know is quite scant, that Section 27B, which deals with the grounds, she still can't produce those grounds. And even worse, the understanding that seemingly comes out through the evidence that she had was that it was subjective and not an objective test, which is the reasonable test. And if that indeed was her manner of approach, then it raises red flags for the manner in which IDAC was handling cases and other cases beyond this Brigadier Mukwela one that raises all this controversy around this particular unit.
Let's answer the question of motive in 30 seconds. If all of this was orchestrated by people including the head of IDAC and other officials, what would have been the point of it? What would they have wanted to achieve from doing that?
Well, the Commission is still trying to get to that. The question first was whether or not she didn't respond directly to the minister because out of fear of the politician that was writing to her. Did she have any fears with that regard? She then removes that as a possible excuse behind why she didn't deal directly with the minister's office when they received that particular letter, or why she didn't question why that particular letter didn't meet the requirements of Section 27. That leaves us with other possible motives that the Commission now has to get to the bottom of, because at the very least, it's looking like there was nothing there for them to pursue it in their particular jurisdiction of Section 27? And if it wasn't, then what was this truly motivated by? I think we'll find out as the testing of the evidence continues this afternoon.
Let's compare notes for a moment, Canny. I mean, last week we were still dealing with this very issue when Brian Padayachee, who was one of the investigators on the case around Mukwele and Crime Intelligence boss Dumisani Khumalo appeared. How does what he told the Commission hold up against what his boss, Andrea Johnson, has said in the last 2 days?
Well, I think the same information comes out in the main, that they didn't have the Section 27 referral, or at least it didn't meet the requirements of Section 27 when they investigated this matter. I think what's left now is getting to the possible motive behind the conduct of IDAC. Is it something where it was just mere errors, or was it a legitimate pursuit of justice, or is it something that the generals are alleging it is, which is allegedly some form of a fight back between Crime Intelligence, the South African Police Services, and that kind of alleged factional war that has been expressed in the South African Police Services. And in the root of that complaint, or rather Padayachee's testimony, we found Major General Khan's name coming up there. It remains whether or not that could possibly be attached to the alleged motive when they test Advocate Andrea Johnson when she returns. But as things stand, Madlanga Commission, that this was a legitimate pursuit of justice in terms of Section 27.
So briefly then, has a line now officially been drawn on the issue of self-incrimination, a right she wanted to invoke yesterday? And what is the way forward regarding what she says are sub judice issues where she feels ultimately she may bear some sort of criminal consequence if she goes into the detail here?
Well, I think it was accepted that there can't be a blanket refusal to the questions that are being posed. However, she's yet to get to witness N and O's evidence after pondering on the question, or rather the test or position that she was asked to reflect on overnight. We're still busy with the affidavit or the investigation itself, and I think that will take up most of the day. Probably would only get to the witness witness O and the Hawks investigators' allegations of alleged interference in defeating the ends of justice, probably only tomorrow when her evidence reaches that conclusion. So right now what's being tested is the trigger to investigate that referral, now that we know from the Minister's office, and how then they reached Fadil Adams, and which part of his statement, the scanned statement, actually met the requirements of Section 27.
So very stakes when Madlanga Commission resumes the hearing at 2 p.m. Still in the hot seat will be the head of the investigating Directorate Against Corruption, that is Advocate Andrea Johnson.